Hello and welcome to this short video about Jaguar XK8 spark plugs and coil packs on the right hand side cylinder bank. This is video 23 in my series of XK8 videos. In this video I'm going to explain how I removed my spark plugs and coil packs from the right hand side bank of cylinders with some top tips and advice along the way. Okay, so the tools I used to remove the coil cover and the coil packs were a screwdriver, some ratchet bits, universal joint, 7, 8 and 10mm sockets, and a 22mm spanner. Okay, so in order to get at the right hand side spark plugs, the air intake is in the way, as you can see here. So you need to remove it. So first of all, top tip, protect the outer wing, because you're going to be leaning over and your belt buckle or your jeans might catch the wing, and once it's done, it's very expensive to fix. So top tip, cover your wing with some protective material. I'm using an old heavy curtain in my case, but please protect your outer panels. So the first thing is I removed the intake bolts at the throttle body. 2 of them there. I've upgraded to stainless. I think they're 8mm AF. I've gone to 10mm stainless AF. Okay, then I removed the air filter housing nut. This is where the 22mm spanner comes in handy to hold the rubber mount in place, and use a 10mm socket for the nut. Then I removed the breather hose. You basically squeeze the 2 clips together and pulls away the full load breather. Then I disconnected the MAF connector. You basically push down on the tab here and then with the screwdriver gently prise it away. Gently being the operative word. Then I removed the intake to the filter housing. Again, you get a screwdriver in this gap here and pull it away. It does cause a little bit of damage, but I find it's the most effective way of getting that intake out. There you go, that's it removed. You don't have to push it all the way into the wing, just enough so you can get the air filter housing out without any trouble. Then here's a trick, remove the whole thing out as one big lump. This saves having to mess about with the Jubilee clip between the intake and the filter housing and setting the angle correctly. Okay, this reveals the coil pack. There's 6 8mm AF bolts on that, so we set about moving them. The hardest one, one of the harder ones, is the bottom left-hand corner, but you can get in with a ratchet joint, universal joint in there. It comes off reasonably easy compared to the left-hand side. Also, the one nearest the shock tower, again, you can't get a ratchet in there. I use my pipe grips and a screwdriver to do that. So once you've got the cover off, you can see the coil packs. And I set about then undoing the coil packs and the harness, electrical harness. To get the electrical connectors off, you depress the top, and again with a little screwdriver leave them out, again very carefully. The coil packs are secured by 2 7mm AF bolts. You undo those and basically the coil pack will basically be just pull straight out. Right, coil packs, there are 2 types. Early cars had 2-pin type and later ones had 4 pins. The part numbers are there. So if you have a coil pack issue, you need to make sure you pick the right coil pack. These part numbers are clearly labeled on top of the coil pack, so you don't necessarily have to take the connectors off to check. So in order to check them, I did some continuity checks, nothing complicated. So I used a multimeter for that. Basically, with my 2 pins, I didn't really have a lot of problem just connecting across there. Made sure the first winding of the coil was correct. Everything good. Then looking at, after pulling away the rubber boot from the end of the coil pack, I had a look at the spring and the contact. And so they were quite dirty. I'm not sure what debris was on there, but it didn't look good. So I cleaned them off with some Scotch-Brite. Then I set about removing the spark plugs. So in order to do that, I used a 16mm spark plug spanner and a deep socket, 125mm extension to that socket, or 5-inch, to get at the spark plugs are quite deep, so you need an extension. Obviously ratchet tools and a torque wrench. In order to set the gaps, I use some slips. Okay, so first of all, use my 16mm long socket or a plug spanner to get the spark plug out. Right, spark plugs. So originally the XK8 and XKR used NGK spark plugs. That's the NGK spark plug number there, and also there's a Jaguar part number. The only difference between the early XK8 and the XKR was a spark plug gap. XK8 is 1.1, XKR is 1.3. So I checked my gaps. My gaps were within 1mm and 1.1 gap, which was okay for my XK8. However, then I found through Andy, thank you Andy, there's actually a TSB for spark plug gaps, 303-29 for the XJ and XK8. And this basically says that, or reading between the lines, that in order to get good tick over, the spark plug gap is like to be set at 1.3mm. So this basically is a TSB saying if your customer comes and complains about the idle being lumpy, change the spark plug gap to 1.3mm. I'm not sure what that does to efficiency or power, but it obviously affects the idle. Okay, moving on. So I checked the end electrodes of my spark plug. Now if you want to know or diagnose the end of your spark plug, I recommend this website, www.mg-cars.org.uk. Here there are 12, there's basically a PDF with 12 faults. So 12 pictures of 12 different electrode conditions with various faults explained. So there is a link in the description of this video. If you'd like to see that, I don't want to repeat it, but it's quite informative. So again, I checked the spark plugs for continuity. Then you can also check for resistance. I didn't in this case. There should be about 10 kiloohms. Then again, the contacts of the spark plugs also looked a bit dirty. I cleaned them up with Scotch-Brite and refitted them. The spark plugs need to be refitted to 28 Newton meters. It's quite critical you do that, because if you don't, you could get oil build up. Then I refitted the coil packs. These are again 7mm AF bolts, tighten up to 7 Newton meters. Top tip then, after you've connected all the harness loom is actually has some fixings, and opposing that on the cam cover are some molded pieces. Now these match those to stop those coming apart, so make sure your cam cover is the right way up. Tighten up the bolts to 5 Newton meters, and then before you refit all the intake and the air filter, I can't remember, or I don't like to remember how many times I've took this on and off and got it wrong. I had to do it again. So here's a couple of top tips to stop doing what I do every time. So first of all, the rubber seal at the throttle body end, if you leave it on the throttle body, you cannot get it on. It doesn't seal up properly. It's got to be removed from the throttle body back onto the air intake, and that way it goes on no problem, very, very easily. So that's first top tip. Take the seal off the throttle body, put it back on the air intake. Second one, how many people have started the car up, thrown up a load of codes because they forgot to fit the MAF sensor? So when you fit the throttle body assembly back in, or the air intake and the air filter housing, that bit of loom falls down and you can't get it back out. Believe me, I've tried. You have to take the whole lot out again. So when you're fitting back the air filter box, make sure you grab that bit of loom and make sure it's above, so it's easy to connect back up. Okay, then I refitted the breather and all the bolts. Jobs are good. Reassembled everything. Tickety boo. Started up, no codes. Okay, hope you find that informative. Please like, share, comment, and subscribe if you'd like to see more XK8 videos.